Dealing with crisis is actually not well taught on management level. Yet, if you think who's got to deal with it, it is the leader. I've over the years been blessed. Other one I can tell you is I got death threats in 2020.
It's a much bigger thing than just playing cricket, actually. It almost sets you up for a professional career while playing and after. And I think that to me is also exciting.
The key is to create a symbiotic relationship where all parties benefit out of it. And for me, stakeholder management's got a golden rule in early and often if you're dealing with key stakeholders.
Before we start this podcast, I've got one little favor to ask you. Can you please hit the subscribe button down below so we can help more people every single week? Thank you. Welcome to the Right Place podcast, where we learn with you how to build connections that matter, relationships that last, and businesses that thrive. My name is Rudolf Rautenbach, and today I'm talking to Jacques Faul, the CEO of the Titans Cricket Union, and a lot more. Jacques, it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it was nice to catch up with you.
Perfect. Jacques, I wanted to start off by asking that the Titans have been the top performing cricket team in South Africa for a number of years. Probably, if you measure it over the 20 odd years that the franchise has existed, it's been the most successful team. How is it possible for a team sport in such a competitive environment to always keep on improving?
Yeah, I think that's actually the key. Is to realize that you got to keep on improving. We also assessed on our performances on field. So the Titans men's team has been the most successful in the world in the last 20 years, just based on the fact that they won 20 trophies in 20 years, which makes it the most successful professional cricket team in 20 years for the test playing nations. Continuous improvement is one. You need a broader team, not just leadership. I also think you need stability. And then I think you need luck. We've had such close wins in the past, and, it is a competitive environment. There's, some other great unions out there that keep us on our toes, and you cannot be on top forever. So we've had some lean seasons. We've been very blessed over the last 20 years. We've produced amazing players that went up to become world brands and played for the Proteas. But, it's a whole ecosystem from fantastic schools, great parents to great support systems, great university in University of Pretoria. So it's a whole ecosystem that results in you being successful over a long period of time. Because it's easy to be successful one season, but to do it for 2 decades, it is a big performance. So, I was here only for 11 of the 20 years. So the recognition must go to my predecessor, Elise Lombard, which is a fantastic CEO. Yeah, you stand on shoulders of giants. So it's easy to command a ship that was already sailing really, really well. And that has been performing well. Recognition to a lot of role players and playing, including schools.
Jacques, I want to go back to that. In terms of your answer, you're talking about this ecosystem and all the other role players. And to manage that, obviously, from your point of view, those organizations do a lot of other things. But you obviously want to tap into the cricket affiliation, what they do within cricket. How do you manage those relationships with those stakeholders to ensure that you get the best out of them for the Titans? How's your client relations, your stakeholder relation driven? What do you see as essential there?
Look, I think the key is to create a symbiotic relationship where all parties benefit out of it. And for me, stakeholder management's got a golden rule in early and often if you're dealing with key stakeholders. And that is not to say that there won't be issues, but if it's a key stakeholder with us, we want to engage with you early and often. We have an online meeting on a monthly basis with all 54 partners, commercial partners. So literally we're telling you what's going to happen in the next month or so. We have a very structured retention program. We get formal feedback from them. We've got an official communicator. We've also got a stakeholder platform where we engage with people on various levels. We've got a unity dinner. We've got a sponsorship forum. So I think a lot of people underestimate the value of having structure, also the value of the sequence of information. If somebody is important to you, he's got to hear it first, and in our wonderful world of sport, there's drama every now and then, so that happens. So what we aim to do, and it's not always possible in this day and age, let me tell you, on digital media, something breaks and it runs. But we try and inform a key stakeholder about something before you probably read it in the media. So that is something that we like to do and manage quite well. We don't always get it right. And then consistent messaging and, valuing the relationship, because that's where trust comes from. You can't declare yourself trustworthy. You've got to prove yourself. And that the rule is never to lie to people, to try and inform them as honestly as you can. And then having structure around it. Like I say, we get a lot of debriefing. We do a lot of feedback forms. There's also, you got to realize that schools, for one, is a busy environment. Even universities, we're actually competing sometimes for the attention of a player, for the availability of a player. And we same to the national team. We lose a lot of players. We can lose as many as 8 and 9 to the Proteas. We do have a lot. We also have fringe players we lose. So you literally would lose a Lazard Williams, who's not contracted by the Proteas, and Donovan Ferreira. Brevis is another one. So, that is the reality. But continuous communication and consistently being honest and transparent, that will build a trust relationship. Also, unknown is unloved. We're blessed to have a lot of commercial partners, so you've got to interact with them. Pierre Joubert does an amazing job as our commercial manager. Karabu is Kosana, the other lady tasked with it. So you got to spend, if somebody is important for you and you have 100 hours, professional hours, how much time do you spend with that person? So we write things up if it's important to us. So in a normal business, you will say a CEO can tell you any day what is the cash flow. He can tell you what is the situation in terms of the management account, year-to-date performance. But if you ask them your 10 key relationships, what is the dashboard on that? You're getting millions from 3 or 4 organizations. Do you manage that? Do you measure that? So we all say that we can only manage what we can measure. So if a key relationship brings in so much money for you, what are you doing to do it? So I think a lot of people underestimate that. It's something that I learned over the years. Also, I guess formal studies have taught me that. That was definitely not the Jacques Faul 21 years ago when I got appointed as a CEO, but that Jacques Faul actually had all the answers. So I actually miss him a little bit. So I've lost a bit of my wisdom and bravery over the years. But, young leaders, when they come in, they want to look strong. They're dealing with stakeholders, wants to already, provide strong leadership. Where over the years I've learned co-designing is very important to get buy-in. If you want people to buy in, co-design things with them, ask them what will work for them. And we're not perfect. I can assure you we don't do everything a perfect way, but we do have a plan to deal with our stakeholders. So a lot of people don't have that. They don't have a plan to deal with those key stakeholders. That's a good start always, is to say, okay, right, that 100 hours, like I say, if company X and person X are contributing 40% to your income, how much time do you spend with them? How structured are the engagements? So that is, quite important for us, at least.
I can imagine. And it's also a blend between professional and amateur that actually creates a bit more chaos, because the professional guys would obviously do their things in the same structured way, whereas the amateurs just want things sometimes. You were appointed as the CEO of Northwest Dragons, and I actually met you there the first time. Then you got seconded at some stage to Cricket South Africa in some very dire years for our cricket administration. You were seconded there. And then you came to the Titans, and all those roles, obviously in a CEO capacity. How do you see the CEO role within sport?
It's evolving over the years. I think there was a very long period where sporting federations were run by committees and more the presidents. That's changed as it became more of a business. So the CEO role developed. and they had to play a big role. It is actually quite a diverse role. If you look at my role, I got to look after recreational cricket or amateur cricket. That's schools. So we've got the cricket service manager, Charlotte Sewadi, fantastic in what she did. She's just been awarded the top CSM in South Africa, so we're very proud of it. So she reports to me, but she looks after all amateur cricket. So schools, club cricket, and then also professional women cricket for now falls under her till we're going to place that in a different entity soon. So that falls under you. And then, of course, the stadium, which is massive. It is our biggest facility. And then under the stadium is the hosting of events, so international events. So that's pure facility management. And then your professional cricket team. We've got two now. We've got the women and the men. We've developed also the Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution that falls under us. We've also got an international academy now. So that collectively falls under you. And it requires you to have an understanding from financial management to facility management to player management, which is actually quite diverse. But again, they all have their own unique stakeholders. Staff is a very, very big stakeholder as well. Your board is a stakeholder. Cricket South Africa is a stakeholder. So anybody that can be influenced by you or you can influence is regarded as a stakeholder. So it is quite, the ICC is a stakeholder. Incoming tour, India is a massive stakeholder for us. So I guess what you've learned over the years is to spend your time where it makes the biggest impact and to structure that engagement. So I cannot on a daily basis interact with all 54 commercial partners, but like I say, we have an online meeting and they know now it's 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. We tell them what's happening and then we're off. But the key ones, you got to get around to them. I mean, we're lucky in sport that you have those interactions with matches. You can invite people to matches. Also, the shutters are down, so that is actually quite nice. But look, I think anybody that operates on a C level has got to understand time management because that impacts on stakeholder management. It's a good thing to have a plan, but you got to get around to all these people. I guess when you're young, you micromanage, which takes up a lot of time. So for me, it's almost it's a triangle where you got to influence a big base. And if you turn it around, that's almost like a line manager. You got to do a lot of things yourself. Now, that takes up a lot of time. So that's the key to me, and also, Jacques Faul 21 years ago, if the sun came up in Potch, I wondered if I approved it, So you try to do too much and you're way too involved on operations management. You micromanage, and that's just a Jacques Faul that was, I guess, a bit insecure. I always say if somebody said, I'd rather do it myself, then I know it's right. Then, this, I cannot manage a lot of things. So that's my journey, manage not, and again, I'm not at the pinnacle of, you must interview my staff and ask them, what do I don't do right? I think you'll have a lot of content for your podcast. So I still do a lot of things right, but I've realized over the years to empower people is almost to you got to allow them to do their work. That you got to do. And you got to free your time up. I'm a big to-do list guy and a big planner. So that's Sunday night planning and what's the week and what you want to get out of it. So you can get caught up in doing things that's not significant or interacting with people that doesn't have a big impact on your role. We're blessed to have all these sponsors. So some of them, are also golf courses that we sponsor us. So to me, I like going there, but if I spend the majority of my time with the guys that gives us free rounds and not with the mayor of and the city manager of Tshwane, then there's a concern. One needs to be careful because human nature will also determine that you migrate towards stakeholders which you like, and there's a bit of a trap in that because you then avoid important stakeholders just because you don't like them. This can be, not always, can be government related or local government related that you don't really get on with them and now you actually avoid them. It's a mistake. It's also a mistake I've done in the past that you feel that you can't work with a certain group of people. Using that as an example, it could be like just a commercial partner which you don't get on. So what you do then, you literally then, you end up with a golf pro time, which is something that people can have a look at. They you sit down and you got those key stakeholders, and you think, yes, I got to get around to this person, and we got to deal with things which you sometimes avoid. But that, like I said, that is a mistake.
Jacques, you mentioned the SuperSport Park International Cricket Academy. Tell us a bit about how the program works, who's involved, the players, the coaches, and so on, and why you guys actually decided on doing this.
Yeah, maybe let me start with the last part of your question. Cricket's quite been deregulated away from formal federations, if you like. You look at the SA20. I know it's co-owned by Cricket South Africa. Was definitely, Graham Smith has done and Lindo D has done such a lovely job with that. So that is quite important to note, that the world out there has become a T20 tournament. That's owned by very wealthy people, and not necessarily federations. And they will be scouting from all over the world. And thus, Academy, for that reason, makes a lot of sense. And we actually do partner with the Capitals on this Academy. The other one is that cricket's becoming an Olympic sport in 2028, which means a lot of countries and associate countries will receive funding because it's an Olympic sport now. But they won't have the infrastructure. So they need to fast-track players. So Academy makes a lot of sense for associate countries and to piggyback on that capacity. So that's actually wonderful, and that's why we've done it. So we looked at a future strategy, and we talk about global titans. Where do we play a global role? Also to stay relevant as a global brand. So the positioning was that. We're also blessed to have some of the biggest names just associated with us. So if you join the Academy tomorrow, you'll be coached by AB de Villiers. That's going to do a session with you. You don't get much better than that. You're also going to be coached by Albie Morkel. You're going to be coached by Alan Donald. You're going to be coached by Heinrich Klaassen on power hitting, Donovan Ferreira, Dewald Brewer. So it's a modern skill. So we're blessed to have that. Yeah, we underestimated the South African uptake. I got to be honest, because it's really not. Well, let me rephrase it. It's not cheap to join the academy. You pay a premium, and but the local uptake, like the one dad said, I said it's really quite pricey, and he said he wants to enroll both kids. So but I guess if it's a value proposition, and it's there, we're also going to extend it to the women. It's going to be an all-year program. We try and evolve all the time, and our strategy is to have a unique value offering, not to. It's one thing to say we win more trophies than other people. Every year there will be a new winner. For us, is what is our unique value offering. So what do we do that other people don't do? The Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution. We've secured sponsorship. We're training mediators. We're making the services available. So for us, the International Academy was almost that as well. This is a unique offering. They started today. I think they're actually receiving all their clothing and everything today. So very excited about it, I must be honest. Yeah. But yeah, it is, like I said, it's what you do different. Otherwise, it's just the opinion. I'm sure if you ask some of my friends who's the best cricket team in South Africa now, they will name themselves. I mean, statistically, we can claim the 20 years, but they it's like, what is the best car in the world? So it's an opinion. So a unique value offering, if you can say, this is what I offer, what other people within my industry don't offer. I think that is where we're heading.
And it's fantastic. It gives young players, up and coming guys, this opportunity to blend in with top guys, and not just on the coaching front. I think from the brochure that we got from you last time was access to Graham Smith, access to Sias de Kok on just your image and how you portray yourself, your PR thing. So it's a much bigger thing than just playing cricket. Actually, it almost sets you up for a professional career while playing and after. And I think that to me is also exciting. You talk a lot about your commercial partners, and I gather from that it's obviously sponsors and guys that partner with you in the longer run. And you mentioned a few times that it's 54, and I know that there's no advertising boards available within the stadium. So how do you build these long-term relationships with these commercial partners? Because it's not new guys every year. It's longer-term sponsors that want to partner. And then how do you what value do you actually give them in this process so that they want to stay involved?
Yeah, look, to get to that number, you got to retain well. Otherwise, you'll be a number below that, and we are sold out. Although we built new structures, if you really want to sponsor, which we already done, we had a new partner, and we said, just build a structure to put your branding on. Retention, everybody wants to do it, but again, structure is important. But understanding what creates value for your partners is vital, and it changes. So the one thing I also realized is when you sign up with a commercial partner, I actually don't think it aligns immediately. It needs a bit of tweaking before it aligns. But there will be a period where it aligns, where initially, it's like any relationship. The relationship is very warm. You can actually sell people more things, to the same sponsor. So the relationship's really warm. But I even think the value offering doesn't always fit. So I'll give you a good example. We give the guy 50 general admission tickets and 2 in the president's suite, and he would prefer 4 in the president's suite, and he doesn't even want a general admission ticket. So that's the first thing you got to realize. But eventually you right size that if you manage it, and then it actually goes off the boil like any relationship. You take it for granted, and we even measure the amount of people that's involved. So in the beginning, a lot of people are involved from the CEO to the marketing manager, and you literally end up as just the 2 marketing managers talking to each other. It's and even can go lower than that. So you need to be careful that you don't warm it up. But then, as the world changes, our world changes, and the sponsors' world changes, we need to understand where the new value offering is. You need an inflection point. You need to warm it up a little bit. And you need to talk to people. That we've got designated manager just for that. I mean, Pierre Joubert is our commercial manager, just looks after relationship. You can word it different, relationship manager or stakeholder management, however you want to do it. And then you got to measure it. So you sometimes lose sponsors. You do, they move on. We've been very blessed to keep people for a very long time, and they stay in. We deliberately have a value offering where we don't want our sponsorship portfolio to exist only of a few sponsors. So we deliberately break it up just to mitigate risk. That's smart in terms of mitigating risk, but then you've got to manage more people and more organizations. So we're well aware of that. And I mean, that we do really, really well. There's a designated spend on our sponsors, like I said, from the forum. We make sure that there's structured engagements with them. We also encourage them to do business with them. And you got to need to understand from whoever the stakeholder is how his life is changing or what he's trying to do, and then create value with him. So listen, this is where I can help you. And for now, we've done well. It has been growing for 10 years. So we've been very blessed in the first couple of years where we came from a little bit of a lower base. But in the first 3 years, so we've upped our income of over 400%. So that's quite a lot, but we also cut our expenses with 27%, and that relates to a lot of barter transactions we've done, and also just cost cutting, which was a good exercise. But if you have such a flying start, you also run out of steam. So our challenge now is to continue, make sure that we run very good relationships. At the end of the day, people still give to people. People still relate to people. It's not an emblem talking to an emblem. It's a person talking to a person. And then don't underestimate that. The human factor. I've seen the industry become a bit more clinical over the years, but then you get so many examples of people that we grow sponsorship just because the person trusts us to create value for them. Look after their money, make sure that we keep our nose clean, go out of our way, go that extra mile, do a bit more that's not in the contract. Don't just tick the rights offering, and be accessible. So we've seen that grow. I do think that in this clinical day and age, we underestimate people factor still. We think it's all clinical measurement. It's really not. It's moved on from the old days where we just looked at somebody that liked cricket, or his son played cricket, and we knew that we can approach them for a sponsorship. It's moved on from that, but it's still people. It's still people that deals with it. It's still people that gives us feedback. We've also now realized that we cannot be as shallow as when people move on from a position to just ignore them. We even now, if you move on, out of the sponsorship frame, we still invite people, we still interact with them just because we think it's the right thing to do. We want to be the right people. The other thing is they also circulate within the industry. They always come back, or they with other sponsors or potential sponsors. So there's a lot of focus when people come to stakeholder management. So, right, you're important. If you move on, you're nothing. And that almost hurts people as well. So you're very important to me while you're in a position, and if you're gone, then you're not. So we've also learned out of it, but that's just common decency. That's not even science. It's just, don't be a situation you get what you can give, but build true relationships with people. So I think we're good with that as well. So we always say to people when they leave, phone us if you want to come and watch cricket. Phone us if you need anything. And over the years, I think that's also helped us, where people look at you and they go like, they're actually decent human beings, talking collectively, not just... I'm probably the worst when it comes to retention, because I had to deal with our hard issues. Pierre don't have to, but I have to deal with the hard issues. So I, sometimes things go wrong, so I'm almost sent in. But when it comes to relationship, Pierre does that. But if you profess to be a good person and that you build long-lasting relationship, and if somebody exits that frame that's been with you for a decade, and you just ignore him afterwards, I mean, that also doesn't make sense. You almost contradict what you're professing to do. So that's maybe just the point where, again, I guess a lot of young leaders, if I say you've got to spend your time with the key stakeholders, but just bear in mind that, people don't disappear. They stay in the industry. They give a reference on you. And that's a reference that says, well, I was their champion when I was sponsored, and then there was just nothing. So it's a valuable lesson to learn in terms of relationship management.
Jacques, I've been very informal with you, calling you on your name the whole time, but I know that you've done a doctorate. And at some stage, I saw something about professor, and I'm not so sure how those things work. Tell us a bit about your doctorate. What was it about, and then your association with the Northwest University as well?
Yeah, I'm a nerd. And I studied for a very, very long time. So I was I think I was so surprised that I passed, that I just realized that maybe I should just keep going, while the going's good. Maybe I should just study as many things as I can while I still pass. So, but that unfortunately went for 17 years. So I studied 17 years non-stop, which is a very, very long time. But at a stage, run out of things to study. I always, I've got a legal background, so also got a LLM, and I'm now, hope to do a doctorate, a LLD, but I did an MBA and also did a PhD. So my PhD relates to stakeholder management of mega and major event. The title is a bit different just to, make it unique. So that's when the first time I came across in the academic world on stakeholder management. I also realized that I probably wasn't as good at it as I thought I was from just the academic perspective. And then, of course, working in sport, mega and major events is something that I love it. I love a stadium, so. And then if you study so long, then eventually you got to not sit in the class, you got to stand in front of the class. So they made me an associate professor at the Northwest University Business School, where I lecture. I lecture strategy, which makes a lot of sense as a professor of practice, because I was required to do a lot of turnaround strategies, 2012, 2020 at Cricket South Africa, also a bit, to be fair, at Northwest and Titans, although, it was always a very stable administration. They had some financial difficulties in 2013 and challenges. There was such a wonderful organization that it was easier to do. 2020 was challenging at Cricket South Africa, and I actually don't think I did turn them around. And then I wrote a handbook just reflecting on all of that. But then people, even when I consult, would say, look, we need a bit of a turnaround strategy. And I didn't choose that to be a topic for me in terms of strategy. I'd rather work with companies that's really doing well and making a lot of money. That to me is a better choice. But you almost within your career end up being sent into the war zone. And then I did some work for the ICC. The ICC, sent me to Zimbabwe on their behalf to see if I can help the full member country. I also helped Namibia, that actually has done really, really well ever since. And I do know that they give me a lot of credit, but I think it's the people that I gave them a recipe and they implemented a recipe. So the guys that, I wrote the prescription, but yes, the guys that implemented were fantastic. So it wasn't even me. But of course, when credit is given, one should not shy away from it. But I can honestly say to you that the people that got involved was amazing. And there's the lesson in turnaround. It cannot be a PowerPoint plan or a strategy. It needs people. It needs good people. There's a saying, which I always remember, that you are where you are because of who you are. So sometimes when I looked at CSA, I think 2020, they almost needed to clean up, which they did. They did really well in terms of that. But, sometimes you yourself can change it, but sometimes you are where you are because of who you are. So there's a lesson in it. But I almost by default ended up being seen as a turnaround strategist, which I definitely did not choose. I'd rather work with Australia than Zimbabwe on various levels. But let me tell you now that the Zimbabwean people were amazing. They were great people, wonderful to work with. But I also got Aussie mates. But using the example that Zimbabwe had a lot of challenges where Australia usually well run. But I guess, where there is a need, I love sport. I do consult a little bit with private business, which is quite interesting. I must actually tell you this story. I once had to present to a big company and on stakeholder management, and I said to the CEO, don't introduce me as the CEO of Titans. Just say I'm Dr. Faul and you leave my academic resume, because I don't think these oaks take me serious just because I'm in cricket. I don't think they take me serious as an academic. So I went off and explained stakeholder management, and I said, guys, any questions? Oak put up his hand, he said, can you just tell us why AB de Villiers didn't go to the World Cup? And I realized I'm so entrenched in cricket that, you can tell them I'm a strategy professor. They still want to know, why didn't we win the World Cup in America and the West Indies? So I afterwards, the CEO says, look, man, you are where you are. Even if I lecture at, Northwest University, I've now realized that people still see me as a cricket administrator, and I can try and convince them I've really studied a long time. I mean, that is how I'm seen. Good and bad, I guess. Good and bad, yeah.
What did you aim to achieve with your book, Crisis Management in Sport?
Look, as a professor, you're a little bit under pressure also to publish a little bit. So that was and I then thought if I could start with all these scientific papers, which I'm required to do. And then I thought, but maybe I think a better way for me as a person that's in practice is to write a handbook and get good contributors to it. I think that was the key, that I wrote most of it, but I had very good contributors to it. And the aim was almost to give a 33, 34-year-old Jacques Faul handbook that will help him. I can tell you now, a crisis can be. I had depression. You had health issues, so you go through a crisis. I had, very challenging crises early in the book. I wrote about. I was just a CEO, and we at Northwestern we held a training camp for young kids, and a boy drowned in the school pool. And his dad, I had to meet with the dad, and he said, look, I send you a healthy boy and you send him back in a box. So it was traumatic. I also had, at Titans, I had a double murder of two of our coaches in Laudium. Dealing with the staff. We had a theft, and we were on top of our game. We had a lady stole $350 from us in the financial office. And it's traumatic, and you honestly don't know how to deal with it. I had no clue, despite being, if you like, well educated. Dealing with crisis is actually not well taught on management level. Yet, if you think who's got to deal with it, it is the leader. I've over the years been blessed. Other one I can tell you is I got death threats in 2020 when well, probably I might as well say it, by the Guptas, not in 2020, 2012, 2013. The Guptas weren't too keen on me. And, I asked Rory Stein was our safety advisor. Now, a kid from Clarkston, but death threats actually not that, uncommon, but, it does get to you a little bit. But then Rory literally said, look, if they want to kill you, they don't warn you, So I've been through the war. So the idea of the book was to just reflect on that. And again, reflecting on a lot of things I don't even know what to do. I got to be honest. You don't have special skills if you've got a new title. And what, leaders are forged in a crisis. That is when you got to step up. And I was hoping that the book will empower a young sports leader or current sports leaders to just read through it and say, look, maybe this can help me. Cricket South Africa gives you a little big opportunity to deal with crises. Whenever I rocked up at Cricket South Africa, they were proper water on the ship. So, I also got to thank them for putting me through the fire. And then how you get through it. And there's a lovely chapter on Dr. Monique de Klerk writes about your emotional state and how you got to deal with it, and how you literally such good advice, and it's something that I thought I wanted to. I'm not even sure what he's the heading, but it's definitely not protect your soul, because I said that's what it should be. But these editors is you don't even speak English properly now. You come up with headings for chapters, so it's probably emotional welfare, but it is in the chapter. So that's the other thing people don't realize. There's through a crisis, you can imagine, as an administrator, what you got to go through.
Yeah, it's fascinating. As I'm listening to what you're saying, you're obviously focused on in sport because that's your background and your place of knowledge. But it sounds like very apt and very applicable to the private sector as well, and not necessarily only in sport. So things that you can implement across the board. And fascinating listening to the different things you've been through.
I couldn't agree more. So I gave it to, we gave the book to a lot of our sponsors and their industry leaders and experienced CEOs, and they, gave me feedback and says, no, look, this can work. There's no special plan just for sport. My field of experience is just out of sport. But if there's a different crisis, you'll probably follow the same methodology, the same leadership tips. If you're in mining or in retail, it's probably be the same. Dealing with the media is dealing with the media. It's just the subject matter that changed. So it is aimed at leadership. It is targeted at a leadership level, but people that run reputational agencies actually looked at it. Our 2020 advisors. It's actually when you're at Cricket South Africa, our reputation management company resigned. Then I knew we were in trouble. If your reputation management company actually resigns, then you're in trouble. So I also gave it to them, and they said no, they thought it was a good book. So I guess it is, for those people as well.
Good. Jacques, we've run out of time. I want to thank you for this discussion, but I want to end with one last question that we ask of everyone that comes on this podcast of ours. And the question is whether you believe that you are currently in your right place.
Yes, man. I should actually just be fishing and playing golf. I think you must look at your job always as a journey. I think I would like to teach a bit more and mentor a bit more. Maybe that's a future role for me. But I'm blessed. I work in an organization that's done well over the years. I work in a sport that I love. I've been blessed to travel the world. I've been blessed to study. So one is always thankful where you are now, but nothing lasts forever. I'd like to be consulting a little bit more. I'd like to teach a little bit more. There's something that makes you feel valuable if you can give something back. Probably matured properly now. I'm old now, so when I was young, I wanted to show the world, that I can do big things. I've now probably matured to I want to give back to the industry. 21 years in it is a long time just to survive in sports. So I want to give back a little bit. So that is where who I am. One is a bit uncertain sometimes what you can give back and what you cannot give back. But, just reflecting on 2 decades in sport, that should be okay. I think people can learn from that.
Fascinating. Thanks, Jacques, for your time. And it's always enlightening to listen to people who actually enjoy what they do, and to know that you've, in my own words now, that you've made it, and you've also made it your own. I think you've lived this journey and been following your career over this 20 odd years. It's always just gotten better. And I think there's no better place than to retire at the Titans, don't go anywhere. But then when you do, you can go into business. As long as we keep on winning the cups, I'm happy. But yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for everything you're doing to the sport. And yeah, hopefully those things that you dream of come true.
Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, we're just temporary custodians of the game, so we're just here to serve. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for the opportunity to share also my experiences, and thank you for this wonderful platform.
Thanks, Jacques. And to the rest of you, we'll see you again at the right place. Bye.